Hey everyone, this is Karen Waksman, founder of Retail MBA. People always ask us, what are the typical product margins when selling a retail chain? So we're going to talk about that in this particular training. With that said, let's get started. So let's talk about profit margins for retail chains. So a lot of times people always ask me, what are the typical profit margins when selling a retail chains? It happens probably in every workshop I've ever taught. And so I want to explain it on a general level. When you're selling to retailers, they want to make a certain amount of money, and so do you, right? And when you're creating your product, you need enough wiggle room so that you can make some money, and then you also need to make sure that the buyer's happy. It's a complicated thing, especially when you're starting out and you have unique products, or maybe don't have a unique product, but you are used to selling your product at a certain price. You guys are all over the place in regards to where you are in the business. So it's hard for me to explain this based on a general collective whole, but I will give it my best shot here. The answer is you need to first figure out what the market will bear in terms of your pricing. So more than anything, you can't go to the buyer with a product with the pricing way off. And the only way to know that is to do your market research, right? So if everyone in your category, in your product similarities, are selling the product for $19.97, then you're going to have to figure out how you work backwards from that. And then you got to figure out what is tasty for the buyer, right? So step one is to figure out the appropriate pricing. I've created other videos in regards to pricing, so please take a look at those. But the answer is, first, make sure that your pricing is not completely outlandish, right? You guys get that? The second thing is that each product category is unique. So what do I mean by a product category? Someone who's selling a consumer electronics product is dealing with things that are very different than someone who's selling clothing, is very different than someone who's selling anything else, right? Every product category is unique. I use this example a lot. Jewelry, fashion jewelry, the cheap stuff at Forever 21 or wherever, those types of retailers. They cost pennies on the dollars to make those products. And it's really light and you can ship them really nicely, right? Really cheaply. That is a very different experience than somebody who's selling a washing machine where there's very little wiggle room. You understand? So how do you figure out your profit margins? You need to go and explore pricing for your product based on your category, and then also be somewhat reasonable in regards to if your product costs $5 to make, and then you know that the market's going to bear $25, you need to be able to incorporate shipping and all sorts of little things that you got to create of your product. And then you just generally try to be reasonable with the buyer, give yourself some extra room. You can do it that way. If you want to be more specific, you go to a trade show or a trade association, start talking to people in your product category, and find out what's typical for your particular product type. So sometimes a product that you put in a store costs $2 to make, and you could sell it retail for $10, and wholesale you'll sell it to her for, say, $5. So you make a little bit on a per unit basis, right? Sometimes it's the product's $100 and it costs $70, and you're splitting between the little about some money that's left based on the size and the shipping and all the things associated with it. The easiest way to find out is to go to a trade association that's related to your product category. You can just do a Google search. Like, for instance, there's a Consumer Electronics Association. There's an association for every product category. And then you can find out what your people are typically dealing with. It depends on the product category. Also the retailer, right? Walmart is a low price leader. They're always going to try and squeeze as much money as possible with the cheapest price. And so all of this comes down to doing your best. And then the buyer will tell you what she needs when you reach out to her. So step one is knowing what's your bare minimum you're willing or able to do at the moment. It's also based on your manufacturer. If they're giving you really high prices, sometimes you just can't do better. I had a client who came to me and said, I want to sell to Home Depot and Lowe's. And he joined our service, and we looked at the product. We said, she's probably going to say something about your price because it's a little bit more expensive than what's going on. He says, I can't help it. I'm a small company. The manufacturer's not giving me better pricing. And so what we did is we did our best, right? Found out for that particular category, it would be, it's a $20 product. You could probably sell it to her for $8 and she'd be happy. And then the retail price is the $20. So wholesale is $8. He made probably a third of that. Everybody's okay. That's worked out for him. And then we went to the retailer, and then the retailer said, this is too expensive. And so what we always do is ask, so what price would you need to make this work? I could see about price volume discounts, whatever it is, to try and keep her aligned. And usually what happens is they'll tell you. A lot of times, if they have any interest in your product, they usually will tell you. And as long as you're not outlandish and silly, then they're cool enough to explain it to you. And her pricing and his pricing was so far off, he said, I give up. There's nothing I can do. I couldn't even get there if I tried. And so it happens sometimes. Bottom line is you're going to have to do market research. You're going to talk to the people in your product categories. You're going to go to her, not completely outlandish, and then do your best. And those are the ways to figure out your product margins. I wish I could give you a specific. People always say, oh, just double whatever the wholesale cost is to MSRP and all these things. I don't do it that way because honestly, I've seen products in certain categories that are like 4 times the cost in stores and more. It really based on product category. And I like to try and squeeze as much dollar amounts as I can per product. And so I'm always going to try and see what I can do by getting the exact data for the particular category. And that's how I do it. So anyways, I hope that provided value for you. If you want to learn the whole experience of going after stores, what makes buyers buy, how to get them to talk to you, quickest ways to get this done, please take a look at our Retail MBA program. It's listed at retailmba.com. Otherwise, please be on the lookout for additional video and content we create. And we appreciate you. Thank you so much.